And my name is Bartlomiej Janiak, Bartek in short, and we are about to begin our 40-minute webinar, and I will just share my screen right now with you so that you'll hopefully see the screen. Okay, and the question is, can you see the screen? Just if you could drop. Okay, yes, I can. Yes, loud and clear and great. So the revision strategies, okay, and a quick background about me. I'm a teacher trainer and the assessment advisor for Central and Eastern Europe. My professional background is in coaching, psychology, especially cognitive psychology. So this is the time when the revision strategies kicks in. And so far we've had like wonderful webinars introducing PTE General, how to write papers, how to prepare for the speaking, for the writing, for the reading, for the listening skills. And sooner or later in life, we will meet this moment when we'll have to revise. Okay, so revising strategies, and probably as long as I can remember, there's like no shortage of alternatives. Like all the students, all the people are trying to find this golden method, just the best possible method, just to revise everything, probably in a single sitting, which I hope you'll learn that it's not the best option. And the revision strategies, I think, will be quite useful to you, just to prepare your students for successful revision before the exam. But it will be also useful to you in times of isolations, when some of you probably have their kids or teenagers studying at home, doing online lessons, and they are preparing for a test, quizzes as well. So the knowledge from this webinar will allow you just to put things into practice, not only for revising or teaching your students how to revise for an exam, but just to helping your kids at home to prepare better, just to revise successfully for their own tests and quizzes at school. So the very first question is, when should I revise and how long should I revise for? Is like the morning time, the evening time? Is like a single sitting of 5 hours, or is it like only one slot, then there is a break? So the most important element, just the basic foundations, this is the time physiology, okay? We need to take under consideration the time physiology. And the first element, please remember, is sleep, okay? That's it. If you want to revise successfully, make sure, or if you want your students to revise successfully, make sure that they are well rested, they are full of energy, they get around 7 hours of sleep before this revising period. Otherwise, our creative skills, our cognitive skills get drastically down, and basically revising is not as easy as it should be. And just imagine the situation that you had a good night's sleep and you wake up in the morning around 6 or 7. So this is the time which is called in cognitive psychology the morning peak. So this is the time where the enhanced learning takes place. So you handle facts better. And this is the time for you for the creative thinking. So this is like, well, people come up with all the creative ideas and the solutions that we are observing nowadays. And this is the best time for learning new material. So if you are learning something new, if you are studying something, if you can, and if you have an option to choose, just go for this morning peak between 6 and 12 o'clock. Then there is a time from between 1 and 2. So this is the time for you just to take a break. And that's it. This is the time for the energy refill. This is the time where you get hydrated, you get food. And this is the time for physical activity, at least going for a walk. So if you have your students or if you have your kids at home and around noon after eating, so make sure before studying for next amount of time in the afternoon, make sure just to provide them, if possible, of course, if possible, just go out on the balcony or take some fresh air, go for a mini walk if it's possible in your country. Then there is something which is called the afternoon peak, and the afternoon peak is like between 2 and 8 o'clock in the evening, and this is where you get access to the long-term memory. Okay? And this is, according to cognitive psychology, this is the best time for revising, structuring, and clarifying. So this is the time where you already have some information, and maybe some information are not clear. So this is the good time to clarify them, to ask the extra questions to your teachers, just to jump in the book and just to clarify elements. And this is the best time period for revising. So if you want to revise successfully, I would go for this afternoon peak. Just prepare and to revise the strategies, to revise the vocabulary, to revise the skills that you are practicing, just to successfully take an exam. Then there is another interesting point. Students keep asking, and people generally want to know, how long should I study for? Should I study like for 5 hours or 3 hours in a single sitting without any breaks, just to consume as much information as possible, preferably one night before the exam? Or is it much better to do it in mini bits? And if the mini bits are possible, so what are the best mini bits for my students? If you want, of course, and this is quite important, please remember that we do have two systems. I call them, this is my personal name, A and B, just to make life easier for people to remember. So they are responsible, they are different time slots. So the first one, the professional name is called perceptive concentration. So this is the method, or this is the time slot that you are likely to use when you learn something, when you revise something, when you put the information literally inside your head. Okay, so you've got the book, you study the book, you've got your notes from the language lesson, and you revise it before the test, before the exam, or put new elements inside. So this is the system A. And then we have the creative concentration, which is the system B. So the creative concentration, as the name suggests, is the time, or this is the method when you create something. So there is no data intake. You don't put anything new inside. You just basically create, so you use your knowledge to create something. The typical example in reality is like when you write an essay, you write a project, or you write your master thesis. Okay, so you sit in front of the computer with an empty piece of paper, and you have to create something using the knowledge that you have. And the important element, depending on what you're trying to do, is like revision or creation. There will be a different time slots for you to study or just to revise and to create. System A looks as follows. The time slot is the 45 minutes. Okay? You should learn or you should revise for 45 minutes. And after 45 minutes, you will have a break. Okay? Why the 45-minute slot? Because 45 minutes, this is the time where, as you can probably see, the first stage between 3 and 5 minutes is when your brain is literally warming up. So this is the time for you to browse through the materials, just to get the general idea, just to start thinking. Then you get from 12 up to 18 minutes of high concentration time. So this is the time, this is your concentration peak when you revise effectively, when you learn effectively. And after 18th minute, there's like more or less extra 5 minutes of high concentration, but this concentration starts going down, okay? And then you experience 5 or 7 minutes of something which is called the concentration crisis. And after this concentration crisis, there is yet another 7 to 10 minutes of high concentration before the break. Attending various lectures or various English classes or the psychology courses, there's one single element that you can observe that your students get into this concentration crisis. Basically, they start looking at their watches. Okay, they start yawning, they start fiddling with the pen, they start looking at different pages from the book. So this is the concentration crisis. And some teachers do it somehow naturally. So the best strategy at this very moment is to inform your students, okay, listen, it's time to concentrate. We've got 7 or 10 more minutes to go before the break. And then the students like, oh my God, I need to concentrate for 7 minutes and then I will be free, okay? So this is very important for revision and learning, 45-minute slots. Okay, and the 45-minute slots, and there is a break. So if you look at a typical day, I just presented the typical day that is devoted only to revision. So you have 45-minute slots in the circles. The circles have different colors, and this is very important. After some time, I will tell you why it's important to have a different circles. So we've got 45-minute slot, there is a mini break, another 45-minute slot, the mini break, slot, mini break, and then you take 2-hour break just to go out, to eat, just to relax, to do something else, to do the physical activity, and then you can go for extra 3 or 4 slots on a typical day if you want to devote your whole day for revision strategies or for learning something new. And then there is a question, how long should I have my break for? Okay, so the break, as some people imagine, or some students, this is the time when you just forget about everything. You sit in the corner of the room, you just get into the Facebook or the Instagram, or you smoke a cigarette, or you just go out and do nothing. So this is not the function of the break. So the function of the break in this revision strategies process. The first 2 minutes, your brain is still coding information. Okay, it means you're still processing information. Your brain is still revising and still remembering, which is very good. Okay. So if you finish the break after 2 minutes, actually that's not what you want, because you will not get enough rest. Then around the 3rd minute, the relaxation begins, which is good. This is what you want to experience during the break, the relaxation time, to get the energy to get back to another revision unit. And according to cognitive psychologists, the optimal time of this short break is up to 7 minutes. Okay. The longer the break, the more difficult it will be for you to get back to the revision process. Okay? Please remember, for the revision, this is like a 45-minute slots, 7-minute break, maximum time, and then you get back to another 45-minute slots. But there is one element, one exception. There are some days that your students are well rested, full of energy. They've got like extra energy from the universe. They've got good hydration. And for example, when you study the material, you revise the material, you seem that you've got this extra power and you can go on for a longer period of time, like a surfer catching the best wave in his life, okay? So if you experience such days, okay, make use of it. So if you feel this extra energy, if you feel highly concentrated and highly focused, and everything is going smoothly with the revising and learning, so you can feel free to extend this revising period for longer period of time. But please remember that you cannot go on like this for eternity. The standard revision period, this is the 45 minutes. Okay, experiencing extra energy during like a specific days, feel free to prolong it. Okay, and then there is the system B. As I told you before, the system B, this is for creating something. When you just sit in front of the computer, you just have empty screen and you just look and you want to write your master thesis, or you want to create an essay or a project or anything else. The time is 90-minute slot, okay? You will be using 90-minute slots, and after the 90-minute slot, you will have a break. So here the situation is a bit different. The first part is like from up to 20 minutes. This is the time when your brain is warming up, and it's usually characterized by an actions like you sit in front of the computer, you just type 1 or 2 sentences, and then bang, the empty page. You just think what to put next. Sometimes it's very difficult to put an extra sentence or to put an extra word. Basically, your brain is getting ready, is collecting all the information from different parts to prepare them just to make them alive and just get out of your mind, just and put it on the paper. Then you hit like a time of high concentration or high creation mode, which is like between 60 or 70 minutes. So this is where the magic takes place, okay? This is the people start writing without stopping. And after, when you reach this time, the 70 minutes, there is like a 10 minutes of a concentration or creativity crisis, when basically you start experiencing problem with putting extra paragraphs, with writing extra sentences. So I wouldn't recommend during this last time forcing yourself or forcing your students just to write extra element. The last period, this is a very good period to do the random checkup, okay? So you go back, you read the chapter, you read the paragraph, you do the spelling check, you do the grammar check before the break, and then you take the break. The break in this system B, or this creative time, is a bit different because the break is for 20 minutes. Your mind is doing hard work. Looking at the chart, okay, the audio is okay. So 20 minutes, so there's a 20-minute break. So in this time, you need to take care of the following. You need to hydrate yourself. Definitely you need to move, okay? Like a mini walk or walking through your house, or to get out on the balcony or go for a mini walk. This is the time for a snack. And this is the time, especially now in times of isolation, when you work in front of the computer, this is a time for you to take your eyes off the screen. Okay? If you are in this creative mode and you write the paper, you write an essay, and you take a break for 20 minutes, and you spend this 20 minutes staring at the computer in the Facebook, Twitter, or checking the emails, this is not the best option. You need to take your eyes off the screen just to relax them a bit. And the last element, make sure to take some deep breaths before you get into another creative period. Okay? On a typical day devoted to creation, so you've got this creative for 90-minute slot, mini break, 20 minutes break, 90-minute slot, 90-minute slot, then you take 2 hours break just to relax, do physical activity, eat something, meet with your friends, do some socializing. And then on a typical day devoted only to creation, you can take extra 2 more slots when you're writing, for example, a master thesis and you are pressed for time. So this is the time physiology, which is very important for revising, okay? So now, when you know the time physiology, people want to know how to make things faster, okay? What are the secret strategies I can use to help my students prepare better for the test, for the exam, and just to learn and revise better, okay? So the question is, how should I revise, okay? What to do, what are the steps if I want to revise effectively? First important element, please remember, if you start revising, you need to build a scaffolding, okay? You need to build the scaffolding. Scaffolding, this is the first step for successful revision. And what is scaffolding in just the language learning? Imagine that I have the situation that I'm having a test from Speak Out Intermediate Plus, Unit 6, and I want to revise before the test, okay? I want to revise before the test, next lesson. So what I do as the very first step, just this first 3 or 5 minutes, looking at the time of 45 minutes, I just browse through the unit. I look at the pictures just to get an idea what is the unit about. I look at the names of the subchapters. If there is a language bank on some page, I just quickly jump into this language bank to go through the words. If there is a reading, I only read the title. I only read the keywords. I'm not getting into details at this very moment. If there is a grammar presented, just I read what is the grammar about. I read the basic sentences without thinking and without getting into the details. You need to build the scaffolding, you need to build the structure, And once you have the general idea what the unit is about, then you get into the details, and I call it you put the bricks to build the house. Okay, so the first element, please remember, revision starts with the getting general idea before getting into details. Then there is another element which is called the serial position effect. The Herban-Ebbinghaus, this is the psychologist who is responsible for creating the notion of serial position effect. So what is serial position effect in reality? Okay, there are two sub-effects inside this phenomenon. The first one is the primacy effect. So the primacy effect basically means when you study something, you are more likely to remember things that were at the very beginning of this learning period. Okay, so if I'm studying unit 6 and unit 7, probably I will remember more things that were at the very beginning of this unit. Okay, the problem with the sound. Okay, is it better right now? Okay, it seems better, so I'm gonna keep my microphone because it might keep moving. Okay, so the primacy effect, basically you will learn, you'll remember things that were at the, you'll remember things better that were at the very beginning of the revising period. And there is also a recency effect. Recency effect means that last few items are still in working memory and they are ready available. So in reality, it means that you are more likely to remember things that were at the very beginning of the unit and things that were at the very end of the unit. The worst situation is with the middle part, okay? But I'm gonna tell you at the end what to do just to make sure that this middle part is also remembered well. So this is like a serial position effect. The second element, this is the levels of processing model. You've got the two psychologists, Lockhart and Craig, in 1972 that devised the model, the levels of processing model. So this is, in reality, it looks like this when you learn something and you revise something. There are various strategies that people use. Some of them are very effective, but they are only short run, and some of them are more effective because they are very long term. And the first one, which is called the maintenance rehearsal. Maintenance rehearsal, this is the professional name. If you want it short, this is my private definition. This is the surface learning, or just the surface revision. Okay, the surface revision, and the surface revision in reality looks like this. Just imagine the situation that you are sitting in one room with a group of friends and you decided to order a pizza. Okay, so you're on the phone calling your favorite pizza restaurant to get online delivery, and your friends are telling you their favorite ingredients. So in order to remember all the ingredients, you are likely to repeat the ingredients aloud. So it's gonna be like mushroom, peppers, double cheese, onions, mushroom, peppers, double cheese, onions, mushroom, peppers, double cheese, onions. Just till that someone picks up the phone and say, okay, I'm gonna order a pizza. It's gonna be mushroom, pepper, double cheese, and onions. Okay, so to get it right, so this is the maintenance rehearsal or the surface rehearsal in reality. A similar situation takes place in a situation when someone gives you the phone number and you have no paper or no pen to write it on, and your mobile phone is in the next room. Okay, so someone gives you the phone number and you repeat this number aloud, or you repeat this number inside your head using the very same numbers. Just you run to the next room, you just type the number is correct, and bang, after 30 seconds, the number is gone from your memory. Okay, so the maintenance rehearsal is not the effective way for learning and revising for the test, because it's likely to stay only for a short amount of time. So now there is a second story, and the second strategy, you elaborate on the topic. Okay, elaborative rehearsal. My personal name is a deep diving. Okay, so this is what you want your students to go for, not the first one, maintenance rehearsal, because this is a very short memory. You want your students to go for the deep diving. Okay, when you study something and when you revise something, you need to go deeply so that you make sure that the materials stay in the long-term memory, and how to do it in practice. The first element, please use your own words, okay? There's not much sense in repeating exactly the same words that are written in the book. If you're learning an idea, if you're learning definition, if you're learning successful reading or the writing skills, and there is some introduction, use your own words when you make notes, when you repeat the words, etc. There is not much sense copying the words, because copying the words, as you probably saw before, this is the first strategy. You just maintain the elements in the working memory for a short time. So deep diving means using your own words. The second important element is to relate new items to something you already know. So basically, if you learn new words, irregular verbs, or the grammar tenses, or the new listening, or the reading skills, you need to relate them to something you already know. So you just take something from your long-term memory, an experience, a story, a person you know, anything that works for you, and just you relate, you make a connection between these new items and the things you already know. Sometimes they have the same rhyming, sometimes they have some common elements. So this is what you want to do when you want to remember things for a long time. The third part is using various methods. Some students only go for revising, like repeating things aloud, but this is only one method. The second element is writing things down. The third element is like doing a mind map, okay? If you're interested in getting some extra knowledge about mind maps, there is the creator Tony Buzan, and he produced, I think, 2 books about mind map mastery. So feel free just to Google Tony Buzan mind maps and get one of these books. It will help you a lot. So the mind mapping, doing the PowerPoint presentation, doing the quizzes so that you can check yourself after the revision period is over, okay? So various strategy, there is more than only one, like repeating aloud. Using images, if you learn something new, if you revise materials, and you can use images, that it will help you a lot, okay? Implementing emotions. This is the reason why storytelling in business is so powerful, okay? If you can implement emotions in your teaching practice, if you can implement emotions in your revision strategies, you will remember things for a long time. One of the examples of implementing emotions, imagine you have the set of adjectives to learn, and you ask your students, okay, create a sentence with the adjective. That's it. Okay? There is no emotional context. But different variation is create a sentence with this adjective that is true for you and is connected with some pleasant event that you experience in your life. This is what implementing emotions in reality looks like, and in all likelihood, they are likely to remember the second part with the emotions much better. Okay? Use chunking methods. The same story as you want to remember the phone numbers. You just divide the numbers into the group. The same situation when you want to remember the shopping list. Okay, you divide the grocery, the frozen foods, the sweets, the drinks, the cosmetic, the beauty, etc. So you make grouping, and it allows you to remember and to revise things better. And the last one, mnemonic strategies. After the webinar, just please make sure you remember the name mnemonic strategies. Just Google it, and you will get no shortage of alternatives. Different mnemonic strategies, how to remember words, how to remember sentences. And the best way is to experiment with your student and see what works well for them. So these are all the elements for the maintenance, for the elaborative rehearsal when you want to deep diving. And my personal best, this is how I experience it. My personal best is, I call the strategy when the student becomes teacher. So basically, in reality, it looks as follows. You are having the presentation, you're having a lesson on the reading skills, on the speaking skills, or you're having that lesson about the grammar. So afterwards, once you make sure that the notion is clear, you just divide the students into groups, and you ask one of the students to get into the role of the teacher and teach these new elements to other people, okay? And this is the very best example of a deep diving strategy or elaborative strategies or elaborative rehearsal, as the professional name says, because if you're a teacher, you will likely use your own words, you'll likely use different methods, you'll likely use emotions to make things better, and you explain the element, you explain the notion in a way that is best for you, and it could be the different way than the teacher explains normally during the lesson, okay? So one of the best ways to revise is just to teach this element to other people. Then there is an important question regarding why do we forget? You revise, and sometimes basically you forget things. You just sit in front of the exam and you take the exam, and for some reason you cannot restore the information. So the words that is coming into your way is called interference. The professional name, my personal name is called the Gremlins. Basically, you will meet gremlins on your way when you revise. And the gremlins in reality, one of the gremlins is basically the items you learn or the subjects you learn are similar to each other. Okay, so you're learning grammar, and then you are revising grammar, and then you are revising another grammar as well. And these two grammar aspects are very similar to each other. That's why in this chart that I presented before, you've got 45-minute slot, and then you've got another 45-minute slot in a different color, which means this is the different skill or something not connected with the first one. So for example, the first one could be the grammar, then could be the reading skills, then could be the listening skills, then could be the speaking skills. It would be much better than to have 4 sessions devoted only to grammar, or the 4th session devoted only to the vocabulary study. Okay, so make sure, just to avoid this gremlin, just to change the order of revising things so that they will differ from each other. The second element, this is called, well, emotional intake. As a teachers, we might not be in the best position to control it, but in reality, it looks like this. Imagine the situation that tomorrow I'm taking my exam, and today I need to revise, but for some reason there is like a problem in my family. Just, I don't know, I break up with my partner. Okay, so this is of high emotional value. So if situation like this happen, it's not the best time for me to go tomorrow, or just for me to revise today and go tomorrow to take an exam. Sometimes basically the emotions don't help us a lot. So please remember, when you revise, make sure that you are emotionally stable, or just take care of the emotional reality around you so that you're gonna be a balanced person. And the last gremlin, basically, students see no point in learning, okay? They don't know why should they learn vocabulary, they don't know why should they learn the reading skills, they don't know why should they learn the listening skills, because it makes no sense to them. This is the situation, the example from reality. It's much easier for you to remember 2 articles from the newspaper, because they have a context, they have a history, they have people involved. Okay, you can build an image. And the second scenario, you have to remember your internet password. Okay, it's just the number of digits. And there is no point, and you see no sense why should you learn it. So in order to revise effectively, you need to show your students what is the sense behind learning reading skills, listening skills, what is the sense behind learning the vocabulary, okay, what will be the benefits, what will be the effect, so that when the students start revising, they say, okay, yes, now I know, it makes sense to me that I should study and I should revise this material. So I see no sense, 3 gremlins, okay? And then finally putting the things together. So this is like a key takeaway for you if you want to revise successfully. The first element, make sure to take care of the appropriate timing slot. 45 minutes, this is the best slot for revising and learning, and breaks lasting up to 7 minutes. Okay? And probably some of you might have heard of something which is called Pomodoro timer. You can just Google search Pomodoro timer, you'll get it. It's like 25 minutes timer with a break. It's not the best option for revising the learning. Pomodoro timer, I think it would be good to use for doing boring tasks, like copying things, answering emails, or just the cleaning. If you want to revise, if you want to learn, go for these 45-minute slots. Then there is an element, please remember about the whole method. The whole method, this is what I told you about the building scaffolding in the first place. So you just browse through the unit, you browse through the exam paper, you get the chapters, you get the sub-chapters, you look at the keywords, you look at the key elements just to get the general idea. Then you move into details. Then there is elaborative rehearsal, the deep diving that I told you about, okay? The using your own words, using various images, various methods, PowerPoint presentations, talking aloud, doing the mind map. So this is what you are likely to use if you want to transport, to revise effectively and move the items to the long-term memory. Okay? Distributed learning means it's much better to revise effectively in shorter period of times, like 45-minute slot, rather than sitting for 5 hours or 4 hours in a single sitting without any breaks. So make sure successful revision means distributed learning. So mini breaks before and after the revision period. Learned items differ from each other. This is what I told you about the Gremlins, okay? So make sure when you're studying grammar, the next item is not gonna be the grammar, it's gonna be, for example, I don't know, the reading skills. After the reading skills, there will be the vocabulary revision part. And after the vocabulary revision part, it could be like a different subject, for example, just to add some extra variety. And start in different places. This is what I told you about the primacy effect and the recency effect, okay? You're most likely to remember things that were at the very beginning of the unit and things that were at the very end of the unit. So in order to cheat a bit, this primacy effect and the recency effect, the next time you revise the same unit, start in a different place. Okay, so start, for example, from the middle, so that the middle part will be the beginning part on the next revision period, and you'll remember the middle part as well. And last strategy, I used to do it quite a lot before studying for the exam, is like meet before the exam. So the revision is over, the learning process is over. So it's quite good for students to meet before an exam and to meet before the text to talk about the things they already know, to clarify the things, and just basically to have an open conversation with each other, or maybe an open conversation with a teacher, just asking for extra clarification. And meeting before an exam is a very similar strategy when the student becomes teacher, okay? Because when the student meet, one of them gets in the role of the teacher and tries to teach these elements to other people, which, for example, they do not necessarily know. So these are the most important elements as for the successful revision strategies. So if you want to use them, feel free to use them. Feel free to teach this thing to other people, especially to your students, because it will just boost their revision skills when they prepare for an exam. And I think that would be all from me. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Martin. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. So we had a couple of things and issues with the sound there, but I think I generally heard everything wonderful, and it was very, very informative. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful, wonderful webinar. Right now in the chat box, I can't actually see any questions, just a lot of praise, and thank you very much for some wonderful tips and some wonderful information and ideas. Very practical.
Great. Yes, I can see from the chat that, well, that was quite good. Yeah, feel free to use it, experiment with your students. This is all it takes, okay, and teach them, and they're gonna benefit from it. Okay, thanks a lot.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Okay, so enjoy your day.
Okay. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.